All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of Gar Capital. Glad to be with you this morning and every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, make sure to click that like and subscribe button. We're trying to get to 10,000 subs. That starts with you clicking that button. Really do appreciate it. Comment any of your questions, as always, here to help. Good morning. April 10th, Wednesday, CPI day. Let's get to it. Really quickly, the number. We'll bring up the live market block. And we got all the details regarding the CPI report. So let's take a look at it here. 0.4% month over month. The estimate was 0.3% month over month. Year over year, 3.5% versus the estimate of 3.4%. So slightly hotter than expected. Core CPI, hotter than expected. Same as the core on a year over year poll. Year over year basis, excuse me. We did a flash poll as well on the server. 54% of voters said we would have higher than expected. They were correct. So nicely done. Stock futures are down on that report. We talked about that yesterday on the blog as well. What is CPI? What does that mean? What are we looking for moving forward? So hotter than expected CPI, stocks fell, bonds falling, bond yields are going up. I said that crude is kind of a neutral, just due to the fact that that's more based on supply and demand, crude oil inventories, also the Middle East conflict headlines. So again, you can see that crude is up. Silver is also up as well. I do have a silver position long. It is green at the moment in terms of the future side. So we're going to see what happens moving forward as the dollar is bouncing higher, getting close to 105. That's going to affect crypto, Bitcoin at 68,000, Ethereum down 2.62 as well. Dollar pairs, dollar yen, 152.45. Getting closer to that TP1 on our dollar yen long. That was a tough hold for a bit with those BOJ headlines. And copper down about 0.28%. S&P is down 1.34%, 5190, a little off the lows. NASDAQ down 1.44%, holding above the 50-day moving average. I'm going to show you that here in a second. The Dow down 448. Been a while since we've had, a 2% decline in the Dow. Maybe we get it today, but right now we look like we're holding some support. 2040 on the Russell, currently down 2.86%. Let's get to NASDAQ first. We're going to go to the daily chart. And right here, this yellow line that you see I'm highlighting, 18087, we just broke it. That is the 50-day moving average. So for now, we are holding pretty close to it. The question is, does it break? So we have not been below the 50-day moving average, guys, since November 3rd of 2023. So could this just be wide range, nothing happening, consolidation, or are we finally getting a breakdown? So if we get below 1845, that would be the lows of the session this morning. 17,900 to be exact, or 903 would be our next support. And then the major support would be right around 17,564. So possibly some discounts heading into the summer, as the expectation is a summer rally if we do get rate cuts. But again, that's all dependent on future CPI, future Fed talk. Who knows? We have PPI tomorrow as well. So maybe that could change the narrative in terms of higher inflation or inflation being higher for longer with higher rates. Take a look at the S&P 500. We did break below this channel so far. So far, again, this happened on a 4-hour basis. If we bring up the daily, we are on the daily chart alone below the 20 and now below this trend line. Really, the trend line that's been holding since the 13th of November. Now, again, if this does sustain, let's say we close today right where we are, then we need to be keeping an eye on 51.52 because right here, that 50-day, that might be a buy zone for those who are looking for a nice discount for future gains. Because I do believe we're still in the bull market. The question now is really just short-term stuff. We're basically trading inflation, Fed policy, commodities, and seasonal moves in the stock market. But if you're a long-term investor right now, you're kind of hoping this happens because, yes, stocks have been getting a little expensive relative to, bonds and other commodities. But the simple fact remains the United States is still the best game in town globally. And there's a reason why these stocks, well, let's say the top 500 companies, S&P 500 companies, profitability is, through the roof. These companies are making money. This doesn't have a bubble type of mentality. It's just companies are making a lot of money efficiently. and AI is going to make that a little better. But we're just really just trading short-term moves, really. But in terms of an investor, again, you're cheering these kind of discounts. It's not enough yet. But again, in a bull market, it gets kind of boring. Other than dollar cost averaging, it's kind of tough to pick and choose levels you want to buy. At that point, you're just happy you're owning stocks. But when you start getting some pullbacks, those are opportunities. Are we there yet? No, I think the 50-day moving average would be a nice spot to start doing, some nibbles, maybe some biting in terms of some longs or in terms of buying some stocks that you wanted. For example, Nvidia being a good one. Nvidia is a name that we've talked about really since 2018. 824.78, that's the first gap to fill. If you start getting to 800, that's your 50-day moving average. Now it starts getting a little interesting based on future earnings growth potential on Nvidia. So right now it's just boring. It's better just to trade this market, honestly. I had a question on Investment Club today regarding, kind of what I'm seeing in the market, and then have I bought much stocks lately? We really haven't, just for the fact that everything has been just elevated. So we want to take advantage of dips. I don't want to buy when stocks are going up. I want to go ahead and get those discounts that we can, when we can. We can afford to be patient as shareholders, since we've been patient. Really, I started this company in 2014. So imagine that. Let's go and answer some questions now. Good morning. Is there an inverse head and shoulders on the dollar? Now, if you're talking about on the daily, it could be an actual head and shoulders setup, not inverse. I think there's many ways to look at it, just for the fact that we're just chopping around. Um, we are above, we just golden crossed on the dollar, so that's concerning in terms of risk assets. But your resistance level is right around the 106 to 107 zone. We're at 104.84. 105 exactly, or 104.99 is your 38.2 fib retracement, depending on how you flip it. So let's see if we can see that as resistance. But the dollar looks like it is going to have a little more upside, just for the fact that we have the golden cross. And it's interesting because gold has been on fire even with the dollar going higher. So that says a lot about the flows and the demand of gold itself. Let's see, QQQ SPY options. Let's go to the 4-hour so we can see here. Again, kind of breaking down here, but we haven't broken the support or the last level of the lows, which is right around 434.23. If you break below 434, the 430 puts are going to be in focus for QQQ. You have a gap to fill as well at 426. So might be have to put in those bear hats on pretty soon. Keep in mind too, this is kind of anecdotal, but usually seasonally speaking, you get weakness into tax deadline day, which is April 15th. After the 15th of April, that's when you start getting some buying. Seasonally speaking, April for the S&P is actually very strong. So be very careful. This has a lot of bear trap vibes with it. A lot of inflation worries, the Fed. We already know that Powell stated on the record that rate cuts are happening. Now we're just kind of talking about when and how much. But we already got the kind of the magic words that rate cuts are happening. Now, with that being said, we're just looking towards today, tomorrow, and the next day this week. But longer term, I think that when you look back at kind of this price action, you're going to be saying this was so small in comparison to the broader bull market. So again, I think it's a very tradable market at the moment. QQQ, again, 430 if you get a break of 434. Let's take a look at SPY. SPY, you're below the 200 MA on the 4-hour, and you have a gap to fill here at 497. So this is where it gets interesting below 509 or 508.55. Let's look for Apple. Apple's been holding that zone so far. Really just looking for 167-ish. 165 on Apple. If that does break, then 152, 150 is coming. So the question is, do you want to get to here to get a little bit more, or do you want to wait a little longer if that does break? This might be just the bottom as well. Again, this kind of gives that, bear trap vibes here, right ahead of tax season, getting that selling. This could be bottom-ish. That's what I'm looking at personally. What price will target SLV trade from yesterday? Yes, SLV. SLV is down today. Beautiful chart, though. Obviously, the dollar being higher. But silver is actually green. $26.43 is your target. That is the highs from July of 2022. So that's really what we're looking for. We got the breakout here. We had a top here in April. We had a top here in April beforehand. So finally, this April, we broke out. So keep knocking on the door. You're going to get there. So 26.43 on silver, but we got tons of time. I'm not too concerned there. Thoughts on Costco calls? We are below some levels here. All right, 700 looking like support. There is a gap to fill here at 774. My only issue is that it might be a little expensive. So if you did want to play that, you have to get above 751 to get to 776. That wouldn't be a huge move, but it would be something. Levels to add Palantir or Tesla. Palantir has a gap to fill here at 1797. I don't know if we get there since 22 is holding. You can see how many alerts I have on Palantir. So it's a waiting game there on those alerts. Let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla's still below the 50-day moving average. We are now at 173 and a quarter, holding about 163. That 160 zone, as you can see here, I have it shaded. That seems to be, well, of course, I ruined that. Let's fix this. I'm just going to put Microsoft there and then just get back to Tesla. My apologies. Here we go. And you can see here, right here, 147.06 to around 163. That would be the buy zone there. But you're in the face of pretty much, horrible, just views right now on Tesla from the market. Pretty much the lowest, I guess, the lowest sense of faith or bullishness in the name out there since it's one of the worst performers. So morale, let's just say, is pretty low for Tesla shareholders since again, EV manufacturing, cars, that's very seasonal. You need a bull market to really push that higher. We are in one, but as we can see, EV right now is pulling back as I guess the infrastructure just isn't there for mass adoption. But that's a whole nother ball game, whole nother topic. 186.55 is still your gap fill there. That would be great to get there because then that'll show that 160 was that support. But it's going to take some time. Let me see. On Apple, yeah, I'm still holding calls, waiting for a miracle for next week. DAL reported and beat. They're up about $1. You still got 50. That hasn't broken. So let's see. Now that we have earnings out of the way, let's see if we can take a look at the 50 calls moving forward. Remember, that was a freebie for everybody. Maybe we can take a look at some future trades there. But $50, again, the target I was looking for anyways. We can wait for $50 to finally break, and then we can play calls higher to possibly maybe 54 or 55. So DAL had a record quarter. They need to be definitely on your radar. Remember, that was a freebie beforehand. But we just need to break above 50. And you can see 48.50 was rejected. 50 was rejected. We're not 48.50. XLE, we are out of those. XLE we took. That's energy stocks and pulled back. The only energy stock I have now is Valero in terms of risk. But again, it's still a breakout. I still expect energy to go higher. It's just that crude oil pulled back yesterday. So let's take a look at it here. Starting to push a little higher here, 85.92. Like I said, I don't think it's a net positive or a negative crude with CPI. 10:30 a.m. today, we're going to have crude oil inventories. This is going to move. I still expect crude oil to move higher. So let's see here on the daily. Our target's right here, 88.23. And DraftKings. DraftKings, the worst part is we were right at 28%, and I did not close. Should have. We're back up in this upward channel. We're testing the 200 MA on the 4-hour. The question is, do we get to 50? And that's kind of what we're waiting for. It's just going to be a hurry up and wait type of day at the moment. So let's see if the markets find some sort of bottom this morning. So far, we seem to be holding up rather well, but we'll see what changes this morning. So crude oil is moving higher. That should help our Valero calls, at least for our members. We did catch Google yesterday, thank God, because Google pulled back. And it is still in the money, guys, but well done. Again, they're teasing us right around that 160 area. I know that was a tough hold for everybody, but we got it. So that's 20 in a row. I don't know if Apple, DraftKings, Bitcoin, or any of these other trades I have open is going to ruin it, but we'll do it step by step, day by day. Do you think this recent drop in markets could be considered pullbacks. They need to keep going higher. Absolutely, 100%. These are very small moves, guys. We haven't even had a 2% drop in, I think, over a year. So we make it a big deal because we're traders. But as an investor, this is nothing, to be honest with you. We'd have to break the 50-day, at least in the NASDAQ, to start getting a little interested in shorting, in my opinion. We're just not there yet. And we'll see if we do. Remember, we have PPI tomorrow. What if that number comes in strong? This would be a bear trap. I think right now it's looking like it might be. And in terms of Apple, one more thing on it. And again, it just rejected. But I was talking about it yesterday that you see this downward trend here? We did break out of it, but let's see if we get it again. I think if we can get it to 171, 175 calls on Apple are not a bad trade. And I think that we might get there. So I do foresee us to get a bounce today. I think this looks like to be the support bottom. I could be wrong, obviously. But as of right now, it looks kind of bottom-ish, kind of a bear trap to me ahead of tax day, which is April 15th. After that, seasonally speaking, historically speaking, you start getting some buys. So we will see. What time does PPI come out tomorrow? At 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, same time as CPI. And we'll go over it tomorrow as well. So some ugly price action today. The numbers don't really indicate to me the sentiment at the moment. I still think that we bounce. Have a great rest of your morning. I'll catch you guys on the live market blog and on the Discord server. Cheers all.